Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Kietzman, welcoming you in to start your week on a Monday. Thanks to Paul Gallant for a great show today. Nice work. He'll be back tomorrow or Wednesday? Tomorrow. Paul Gallant is back. A funny guy. He's got some pretty good lines. I enjoyed that immensely. Appreciate that. Pete getting a couple well-deserved days off with the family. That's a nice thing. We got a good show for you today. We are going to get into something I found very interesting, and that was a coach that turned political after his NCAA tournament win this weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about what you just heard in the news update there. Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor, and his comments about Tesla. Bill Maher, now the comedian, is going to visit Trump at the White House, courtesy of Kid Rock, is negotiating this. We will get into that. And a special guest Thursday for opening day at Kauffman Stadium. It is all ahead on this episode of Uncanceled, where we start with the breaking news that Donald Trump has just released a post on Truth Social that is really, really, really tough on Venezuela. He's obviously not happy with them. He's not happy with the battles he's fighting in court on whether or not he can send these terrorists to a prison in El Salvador. My mom asked me very simply, well, why didn't he just send them back to Venezuela? I said, well, they came here because of Venezuela. They were in jail there, and they let them out, and they came here. They don't want them. They don't want those people there either. Nobody wants them. These are really bad dudes, and nobody wants them. And Venezuela is just not a great partner of the United States anyway. And so Trump has laid down the law just within the last 30 minutes, posting on Truth Social a new round of tariffs against Venezuela, but it is much bigger and deeper than that. We recognize it's not a problem for this country if there's a 25% tariff on oil coming from Venezuela to the United States, because we'll just find it elsewhere. That's just no American purchases of Venezuelan oil. We get that. Trump did not stop there. He says any country in the world that buys oil from Venezuela beginning April 2nd, Liberation Day, that's a week from Wednesday, April 2nd. Any country in the world that purchases oil from Venezuela, the United States will tariff 25% on any business they do with us. So imagine the number of countries that are buying oil from Venezuela and doing business with America. If you buy the oil from Venezuela, he obviously can't tariff that in those countries. But what he can do for the country purchasing the oil is slap 25% on everything they do with the United States. He's essentially shutting down the oil industry in Venezuela. He's going to bankrupt this country. Venezuela is going to be broke very fast. If this stands, if this holds, and nobody in the world buys oil, and Venezuela is oil rich. I mean, it is really rich with oil. If that just dries up, pardon the pun, and is over, that country is going to be in a really, really, really bad way. This is tough, and it's smart. And who in America could have a problem with this? We've got our own oil. We don't need their oil, and we want our friends that do business with us to respect our position that all these people came here, committed all these crimes. We have gangs and gang members and all these other things happening, and they won't take them back. And even if they do, they'll set them free, and they'll wind up coming back here. I get it, man. I love it when Trump makes a move. And this is a bold one just breaking today. I mentioned at the start about a coach this weekend in the NCAA tournament. His name is Bruce Pearl. He's the coach at Auburn, and you may have heard some of this story, but Bruce Pearl's been a fairly controversial college basketball coach, but this goes back to the days when you would get caught with player recruiting scandals or cheating or whatever, and so he's had some of that. But everywhere Bruce Pearl has gone, he's won. And he's at Auburn now, and he's winning. And he's got the number one seed in the tournament, overall number one seed in the tournament, and they're in the Sweet 16, and they're still alive, and they're playing this week. And they've got a great chance to go to the Final Four and maybe even win the national title. They would be one of the 2 or 3 favorites to win this tournament as there's 16 teams left. And he did something really interesting after they won. He came out to his news conference in front of all the media where they're all up on sitting at the dais. And he said, I asked my players if this would be okay for me to do this because I don't want to take away from what they've accomplished. And we love and respect the fact that we live in America and we get a chance to play basketball for a living and have so much fun and create success and make money and all of the spoiled things that we all are. This is a ridiculous country that it's granted this opportunity to me. but I don't want to talk about basketball to start my news conference today. And they said it would be okay. The players told him it would be fine. And at this point, Bruce Pearl started talking about Eden Alexander, who is an American hostage in Gaza that gets almost no media coverage in this country to speak of. And Bruce Pearl said, I think it's a shame. Now, remember, sports for the last 15 years or so since Barack Obama burst on the scene turned into a crap show of people espousing things from the left that were many times senseless, from people that were not very thoughtful in their comments or very smart. I mean, LeBron James just jumps off the screen at you for not understanding what it is that he's commenting about or being able to back it up. He had several of those things, and to his credit, he sort of stopped some of it because there were follow-up questions coming, and he couldn't answer them. He just didn't know. So we've seen a lot of this. We saw the kneelers. We saw the protesters. You know, we watched Colin Kaepernick walk into a news conference wearing a T-shirt with Castro on it, supporting communism in Cuba, talking about kneeling for his national anthem here. It was bad. We've seen all this political stuff. What's happened under Donald Trump and the transformation of what is acceptable to say in free speech and what is not acceptable to say in free speech is we're just at a place now where if you're on the right, you're okay. Bruce Pearl is Jewish. He is a huge MAGA supporter. He's a huge fan of Trump. And he took the opening comments of his press conference and said, we've got to get Eden Alexander home. There's things more important than basketball, and an American citizen being held hostage in Gaza is it. And I thank my players for allowing me the opportunity to come here and do this in front of you. And somebody followed up with another question, and he spoke on it a little bit more, but it's getting a lot of attention now. And the news cycle, as fast as the news cycle is these days, it really resets on Monday morning. So Bruce Pearl was on some national news shows this morning doing interviews, following up, talking about what it is he's talking about, and he's trying to get an effort moving for Eden Alexander to come home. I don't know much about Eden Alexander's situation. I'm going to study it a lot this week. I'm going to find out if there's anything we can do, how we can help. Who knew? This is what is so great about conservatives versus liberals. He brought something up that every American can agree on. I mean, I can't imagine Bernie and AOC disagreeing with, let's bring an American hostage home. Somehow, some way, let's get him home. I love that. It's the same way Trump does things. He puts you in an unwinnable situation. Kevin McCarthy said this weekend, the former Speaker of the House, that Trump is, quote, Trump has broken the Democrat Party, unquote. He said with years of sharp messaging in things that you can't argue, he's broken their party. They're literally out there defending things that you can't defend. Like everybody wants a closed border and no violence. We all want those things. We want stronger economy and lower taxes. 80% of Americans want the federal government to spend less money. And they're out there arguing that it's bad. He puts them in the worst positions. Bruce Pearl did a little bit of that on this. If you're going to start asking about the conflict, it's no longer about Israel versus Gaza. It's an American is being held hostage. We got to get him home. And that redefines why so many Americans are on the side of Israel in this conflict. They're not holding Americans hostage. Hamas is. Gaza, these people are holding them hostage. And Bruce Pearl pointed that out, and I loved it. Emmanuel Cleaver was on with John Holt this weekend on For the People on Fox 4. Again, in a position where he's going to have to defend some of the things the Democrat Party is trying to say about Donald Trump right now. And in his slam of Donald Trump while talking to John Holt, this is the beauty of Trump and Bruce Pearl and some of these topics. He says, you know, Trump's a billionaire, like he doesn't understand normal people. This is the guy that rode in the garbage truck and was at a McDonald's drive-thru window and looked perfectly suited to either of them, by the way, as a billionaire. He seems to be relatable to the most common Americans, and that's why he won again. So Cleaver's flat wrong on this, and he says, quote, he knows nothing about government, unquote. I thought he was complimenting him. I think most people would see Emmanuel Cleaver say that Donald Trump knows nothing about government, and we know what Cleaver's done. I've got no beef with Cleaver. I think there's a good man there with a big heart. Emmanuel Cleaver's done a lot of great things for Kansas City. Fine. We disagree politically, but what really bothers me about guys like Emmanuel Cleaver is he's clearly been around too long. He's stale. He's taking it easy. He's got his feet kicked up on the table, grifting his way through Congress. It's easy for him. I'm not going to say he's lazy, but he's gotten complacent very clearly. And if your argument, the people, your constituents, is that Donald Trump knows nothing about government, I would say you know nothing about politics right now, because that's the best compliment you can pay somebody. The best thing you can say is he's from the private sector. He knows nothing about government. And most American goes, yeah, that's the guy I want. Because we don't think the government's very good. Chuck Schumer did this last week. He stepped right in it. All these greedy people built these businesses of their own, and they don't want to give us taxes. They're greedy. They don't think much of government. They want government to be destroyed. Yes, we want the government smaller. We recognize that we need a government, but we want it much smaller. We don't think you're very good at what you do. Congressman Cleaver, we don't think most people in D.C. are very good at what they do. Hell, we don't think the Republicans are any good at what they do until Trump came along and started surrounding himself by these people that are doing the things that we've been asking for decades. They're finally doing it. And it's changing the party. And as the Republican Party is changing for the better and gaining voters, especially in swing states, but all over the country, gaining voters, the Democrat Party is losing them right and left. Trump has broken the Democrat Party. He absolutely has. So Cleaver is asked by John Holt about Chuck Schumer. Do you need him out? This would be a good play. Schumer and AOC being kicked to the side and something a little more moderate, being the flavor of the month for the Democrat Party, would probably serve them well in the midterms. But if they're going to go hard left or break off, as Bernie Sanders said, and run as independents, they're in big trouble. Cleaver says of Chuck Schumer, quote, he's a great tactician and brilliant lawyer. All right, you lost me. That's it. I can't imagine anybody watching. If you're a Democrat watching and you think he's slamming Trump for saying he doesn't know anything about government, by the way, he was president 9 years ago. I think in the last at least 9 years, he's probably learned a lot about government. But the point is, we want people that don't know a lot about government. We don't like you staying there forever, Cleaver. We just don't like that. And then when you back up Chuck Schumer like this, I don't even know what Cleaver stands for, to be honest. I'm not sure. But I'd like to say it was an interesting interview, but it was only an interesting interview because of Cleaver's complete lack of saying anything. Like you could just tell he wanted to get through it. John Holt was doing a great job, asking legitimate questions. And Cleaver was trying to, body surf his way through the interview and actually compliments Trump when he thinks he's insulting him and then insults Schumer when he thinks he's complimenting him. Bottom line, that's what happened. All right, we got that and much more. I got plenty of topics today. Or if you'd like to join us, love to hear some of your thoughts on what's going on in your world or anything I'm talking about here. 913-408-7957. We've cleared the lines. They're wide open. First in, first on. We'll do that next on Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
You're listening to Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
All right. My phone's been blowing up here, but he just keeps sending me a picture from X or Twitter of Bob Fesco, who does morning radio on a sports station here in Kansas City, saying that he is hearing that the Royals are going to be going to the old Sprint campus at 119th and Knoll in Overland Park, and that's where it will be. He did not report it as fact or anything like that. He said, hey, I'm hearing people saying this and that. By my count, this is the third location he's hearing that the Royals are going to be, and I know they're not building 3 stadiums.
Yeah, he talked about this Overland Park one probably like 3 months ago. So he's back on that one
Back
now?
on it now.
Okay.
Yeah, back on it now. Yep, moved back around. It was downtown. It was definitely going to be downtown. It was going to be the west side of downtown. I'm sorry, the east side, until it wasn't. Then it was definitely going to be the Crossroads area. And then, this North Kansas City thing looks really good, but now it's 119th and Knoll. I'm not saying it's not 119th and Knoll. It may be. I can't even imagine. So let me share just a brief story here before we go to the phones. If they build there, that's Overland Park. Right across Knoll is Leawood. That shopping center, we had an 8-10 zone in there back in the day. And I would do remotes there. I'd go do the show. One day I pull in, and I don't come to a complete stop at the little, squatty potty stop sign. It's a little 4-footer, 5-footer, not the big 8-footer that's legal. It's the little parking lot baby stop sign. And I roll through it, turning right. There's nobody in it, right? I'm headed to the 8-10 zone. All of a sudden, I park my car, and a dude on a bike comes up to me. And he's wearing shorts and has a helmet and a badge. Is a Leawood bicycle police officer in a shopping center parking lot writing tickets for rolling through a squatty potty stop sign. It was like $100. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the stuff they worry about in Leawood. Leawood may explode if they build a stadium right next to their jurisdiction. Can you imagine all those people that live out at Hallbrook in Leawood and all their little fancy restaurants and stores and everything? Oh, we're turning our roads into one-way traffic for a baseball team? These are some of the richest people in the city right by there.
Yeah, and half the street that they want to block off is in Overland Park, and half of it is in Leawood. So it would have to take both of the police departments coming together.
They're going to have to comply. They're going to have to take their road. We're going to have one-way streets in Leawood. Oh, Leawood, how far you have fallen if the baseball team comes. What on earth is going to happen to your neighborhoods? Think of the traffic. Think of those horrible people coming over from Missouri. What will you do in Leawood if the Royals build there?
I was driving through the other day, Kevin, and I thought, what would be my shortcut home? That'll be the next part. Which way are you going to zip through the neighborhoods to get home?
I can't think of a worse place to build the ballpark. Now, not for the Royals. It'd be great for them. They want to be near the wealthier people and the companies that buy suites and all that stuff, and they'll have land that they can develop. They could do shopping and entertainment. They could do all that. It'd be great for the Royals. For the people that live around there, I can't even imagine. There's not going to be a vote. They don't have to. There's no approval, right? They're just going to do it to these folks. Are you calling realtors? Are you trying to sell your house in fear that they're building the ballpark by you? I can't. I just want to see Leawood with one-way streets and like traffic cops in the middle of the day, like opening day Thursdays at 3:00. Can you imagine what 119th and Knoll would be for like 5 hours? It's crowded right now. If you're there, honk your horn. If you're listening right now at 119th and Knoll, honk your horn. Honk it real loud. Honk it at the other people listening to the show. Honk your horns. Look at all the cars around you. And it's not even drive time. And it's packed over there. Oh, if that's right. I'm not saying it is. It may be, but it may not be. Who knows? Here is Matthew on Uncanceled. Good morning, Matthew. Welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning to you. I'm doing great. I couldn't help myself but to comment on. I just caught just a few moments of what you were speaking about being in the game politically and having a fresh head with it all, getting to that point where things matter. This country was founded on a vision of a hope and dream, and we have most definitely lost that. I know that we got to have things standing in place for, our hierarchy. One man answers to another. But for me, myself, I just started school recently at Full Sail University for music production with applied science, and I can't tell you how this school is such a great school and has brought me to a place where I am confronted with reflecting in myself of my everyday activities, what I am in my heart, and why am I here? What am I doing for my country? And everything that's going on in the nation right now, it couldn't be. All the stars are lining up.
Yes, I agree with you, and I don't think we lost anything. I think we got really close to losing it, and it scared the living daylights out of us, and we've come back. And a lot of people that didn't vote for before or voted because, I'm white, I don't want to be seen as a racist, so I'm going to vote for Obama. I think they've gone like, you know what, I was played, and that's not the important stuff. I'm sorry, it's just not. What's important is we have a border. We are our own nation. We are safer, less crime. The economy could get better, that we do these right things. And we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of people wake up to these things now that have never even really thought about them before. They've taken them for granted. But we did come close to losing a lot, and I think it scared people like crazy.
And that is a very pertinent point, part of the dosing of getting ourselves healthy. We needed to see that we are disconnected, that we don't even know who we are. And a good place to start with that is, our founding fathers. If we're not religious, I hate using that word, but it's a word used to symbolize that we honor God and go by Him, and that's
right.
a man. I am a man of God, but we're at a point where it's a beautiful point that we're starting at home. We're starting with that person.
I got to stop you there, Matthew. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. We're getting up against the break here, so I appreciate you calling in and some nice sentiments. I'm glad you found a great education that you're going to enjoy and put to great use. That is outstanding, and you sound like you are filled with optimism, like so many Americans are filled with optimism right now. 913-408-7957 is our number. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
Whether you're a Jayhawk, Wildcat, Tiger, or KC Roo, we won't cancel you. Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Maybe if the Royals go to 119th and Knoll, the Leawood Police Department can trade in their Schwinns for some stallions. You know, couldn't you just see it? Like the Leawood police mounted up on horses, directing traffic one way like a cattle drive back to 435 to go back from where you came from. We don't need you around here tonight, lingering around till 11:30 at night, making noise and a bunch of lights on. Look at all the trash they accumulate over here. Oh, my, are there going to be some unhappy people living around that ballpark if that's where the Royals go. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm being mean. I could own a house near there, and I'd feel really bad. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want it coming to my neighborhood, I don't believe. 913-408-7957 is our number. If you'd like to join in the conversation, here's our man Leonard. Starting the week right. Good morning, Lenny. How are you, bud?
Doing good, Keats. Doing good, Keats. You know, I love how you opened up the show with the first part of it with Bruce Pearl and the message he had. I love that message. And it got me thinking about the NCAA basketball. And I sense, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the spirit of college basketball has taken a hit this year. And I would even go further saying it's the soul. And there's one reason why I think this, and I'm a capitalist, you know this, Keith, but I think it all goes down, the reason there's not a Cinderella and everyone's searching, they're not finding it right now, is because the mid-major superstars, they're getting snatched up. It used to be they wouldn't transfer because they knew that they would have to sit out a year, and that's why the upsets aren't there.
It's true to an extent. We watched the kid at Drake. He looks like a superstar to me, and he's still there. So we'll see if he winds up going to Iowa because his coach is going to Iowa. You may go with him. But I think you make a really valid point. This is the worst tournament I can ever remember. I
agree.
If Cinderella is John Calipari at Arkansas, like that's the Cinderella that's left. That's not Cinderella. John Calipari's like the least Cinderella guy ever. So, I'm with you. And the basketball hasn't been great. And, there haven't been any buzzer beaters either. So the games just haven't been that good. There was one yesterday. The Maryland-Colorado State game was terrific. But there have been very, very few great games in this tournament. It's been a bad tournament. I don't know what else to say, but I don't know what they can do about it. The genie's out of the bottle now.
And, Keith, and I know you agree with this. You've been around sports forever and a day. When one person is taken off of a starting team in basketball, the chemistry, it's going to take a couple years to get that back, and that's another element. But I appreciate you taking my call, buddy.
Thank you, Leonard. Take care. Yeah, the tournament has not been great this year. I don't know how many of our listeners here are watching religiously or just caught. And we're in a bad town to judge the tournament this year, too, because K-State was awful. Missouri and KU lost right out of the gate, and Iowa State couldn't have been worse last night. I would say those are the four biggest fan bases in this metropolitan area, and just a disaster for all four.
I will say this. I think K-State's women's game yesterday is probably the most exciting basketball game that happened the entire weekend, men's or women's.
It's so hard for me to watch, man.
I know. I've become a women's basketball fan.
I know. I think the biggest thing in women's basketball used to drive me crazy. I think the goal should be a little lower so there's more action above the rim and
more
dunking
and stuff.
But I can't. It's so unbelievable how many times a missed shot goes out of bounds, that they just let it bounce and go out of bounds, that nobody's athletic enough to run around the other player and save the ball from going out. And so instead of botching it or bobbling it, they just let it bounce out of bounds, and then it's your ball and you go the other way. I saw that so many times watching yesterday, and I don't watch a lot. I'd given up on them. Weren't they just cooked? Weren't they down like 9 or something? And
yeah, they came back. They made it an overtime battle, and I mean, K-State could have lost on that final shot. That girl was making points all afternoon, and then she just missed that close bunny. So
a couple of shots. They got another putback too. Would that beat the buzzer? Didn't they have a couple cracks at it?
Yep.
Yeah. No, and there was a terrific performance in this game yesterday by Tamira Poindexter. She had 24 points on 8 3-pointers and became the first woman in tournament history to have 6 or more 3-pointers and 6 or more block shots in a game.
That's incredible.
That is a pretty good game. So they're alive. They won 80-79. Good for them. All right, I saw this clip this weekend from Bill Maher, who's on HBO's Real Sports Show, and it's just tantalizing and delicious. He is lamenting the fact that so many people are leaving blue states. And I'll admit to you right now, I got this wrong. I thought what was going to happen was even Democrats would leave blue states and say, wow, it's so bad here, I'm moving to Texas or whatever. That really isn't what's happening. The migration in America from blue states is to red states by conservatives. It's changing the population of those states. It's changing the way those states vote in a pretty dramatic way. And Maher was on his show, and he had an author on there talking about this and said, we've got all these states where these people are leaving. By 2030, it is now believed that a Democrat could win the blue wall in the upper Midwest, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, roll through the whole thing there and still not win the presidency. Because the Electoral College votes in Florida and Texas and Utah and Idaho are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as all these people are leaving LA, San Francisco, places like that, and going to lower tax places. So he was lamenting that, saying that basically the party's dead, that it's been killed, just as we said Kevin McCarthy at the top of the show today said Trump's killed the Democrat Party. Maher kind of agrees. Bill Maher seems like the kind of Democrat that I could really be friends with and have dinner with, and we could sit and like talk about issues. What he understands that most Democrat politicians don't is there are things that are unbendable that both parties have to agree on. You can't just hate it because it's Trump's issue. You cannot hate closing the border because you're a Democrat. You need to go along with that. You can keep your Democrat voters, but they don't want the border open either. You're going to have to cede some of these things to Trump and say he was right and 80% of the American public's with him. You should be on that side as well. It's not like you're going to lose the wackos in your party. They're still going to vote for you. The fact that they won't do that is mind-boggling to me. And Maher was simply saying, they know what the problem is. They just refuse to do anything about it. Then we learn, and I didn't know this until today, Bill Maher is going to the White House to meet Trump. And the left is melting down. It is killing them that Bill Maher is going to do this. And his message to them is, he uses the F word a lot. And that's basically what he said. He said, Kid Rock was on my show 3 weeks ago. And he said, dude, if you ever take me up on one thing your entire life, come with me to the White House and meet the man. Just sit down with him for 15 minutes and see what you think. Trust me. Let's go see him. And Bill Maher's going to do it. And there's no reason you wouldn't if you're Bill Maher. All right? It's good fodder for your show. It's good attention for your career. It's all those things. He doesn't like Trump, but he absolutely does not have Trump derangement syndrome. He's like, I get it. People want lower taxes. People like patriotism. You know, people are mad at the border being open. He sees these things and understands them and understands regular folks, and not very many people in the Democrat Party do it. And Bernie Sanders is running around as this populist guy that's for the little person and all these things. That's what his whole career's been on as an independent. That's all Bernie does. But he's on a tour now called Stop the Oligarchs. How many people in his audience know what an oligarch is? How many Americans know what that is? How many care? They just don't know how to get, well, their message is wrong. That's the first thing. But they also don't know how to get a message out there. They get wonky and clunky and into the weeds of the things that's really important to them that's not really that important to the American people. And if there's one thing we've learned about Donald Trump after a decade, Kevin McCarthy's right, Bill Maher's right, you and I are right. He's been on message for 10 years. It's been simple stuff. Build the wall. Fake news. Lower crime. All of these things. He's been all over those. And you just over and over and over. Make America great again. Make America healthy again. It's been very simple. You don't have to explain it with oligarchy. That's not the way politics works, man. If you want to win big, broad elections, you got to find people that don't pay much attention to this. And after so many years of Trump saying fake news and build the wall and make America great again, people are like, yeah, I'm for all those things. Of course I'm for those things. And, well, yeah, abortion was really important, but it kicked back to the states and abortion's actually up. I don't see how that's changed much. And now that I think about it, taking the transfer of power from D.C. to the state that I live in sounds like a pretty good idea to me. There literally are millions of Americans had no idea this country was set up to be that way. That our founding fathers wanted the states to have the power, the people in the states to elect their people in their state to run their state how they want. Most Americans don't know that. But as it plays out in real time, they're like, well, that's a pretty good idea. And now here comes the Department of Education. Department of Education is going back to the states. there will be no Department of Education. The federal government wants to keep sending funds they can. I saw an Ivy League school today, they said that the federal government sends them $480 million a year to their endowment. Their endowment is $14 billion. And they're still taking almost $500 million from the federal government every year. Here's a question. Why? Why would our federal government be sending that kind of money to these universities with these billions of dollars of endowments that can clearly operate on their own without anything from the feds? Why? Why are we doing this? State, different thing. K through 12, different thing. Let's support the states. If that's what we need to do, let's do it. And I've gotten great emails from some of my podcast listeners that either have a wife in education or have been in education. They're like, we need merit pay for these people. That's what the federal government should do. They should set up an incentive program for these teachers that when you are more successful, you're a better teacher, the outcomes are better on the ACT scores and things like that, you get a bonus. Let the teachers, even though they're in a union, whatever, work for bonuses for excellence. So they don't get mired down at the university level in, all these ridiculous things. You just completely have tenure and you're there for life and nobody can take it away from you. It'd be easy to phone it in every day. That would be an easy, natural thing for a lot of people to do. We should have incentives for teachers to be great, make teachers great again. There are great teachers out there. There's just not enough of them. I've heard a lot of great ideas, and they don't involve a Department of Education. They do, in many ways, involve funding and sending it to the states and letting the people at the local level decide what to do with their schools. Love those ideas across the board. 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled. I'm Kevin Kietzman. We're back with more on KCMO Talk Radio right after these messages.
Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled. 10 to 11 a.m. on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, let's talk second chances. I think most people believe in second chances. Everybody's capable of doing something bad one time, but we give second chances. We like success stories after somebody gets a second chance, a little redemption. We like it in sports. We like it in life. Trump's getting a second chance at the Oval Office. We love that. What would you do with this coach? New York Class D state championship girls basketball game this weekend. Northville Central School District says they have fired their coach, Jim Zullo, for pulling the ponytail hair of his player, Haley Monroe. She popped off at him, and he grabbed her ponytail and yanked her back, and they fired him. Now, I agree with firing him, and I also agree that he's probably beating himself up that he lost his cool like that, and I don't know what kind of help he's going to get or what kind of help he needs to get, but I would ask the question, if someone goes and gets some counseling, we need good coaches, we need people that are committed to kids. Is that a possible second chance story? Or you think that's it for life? You pull a girl's hair that's on your team, you're done. You should never coach again.
I think it depends on the person. This guy looks like he's about retirement age from the video that I saw, so I don't know if he's going to be trying to get back into coaching. If it was a younger guy, I think maybe they'd give him a second chance, but I think because of his age, he might just be off in the sunset.
It was an ugly reaction. There's a lot to digest here. Obviously, it was a man pulling a girl's ponytail. That's a terrible thing to see. So it's worse than, we see coaches bump or push boys sometimes, or men in college basketball, whatever. God only knows what Dan Hurley may do at UConn next, because that guy's crazy. When I see stories like this, I can only imagine what he's going through, how terrible he feels, that no words will be enough for how stupid this was and the apologies to her. And I wonder if that's something you'd give somebody a second chance. If they went and got some counseling or whatever and figured out why they were triggered. You just don't coach that long if you're not in it for the kids. You're there, you love sports and you love teaching, you like mentoring. That's what most coaches are in this for, is to work with young people and have a positive impact on their life. That's really the essence of coaching, is to have a positive impact on a young person's life. That's it. I'm not talking about professional sports. I'm talking about high school, junior high, high school, and even in most college situations. That's what you're there for. And it was just a really unfortunate situation. That was an ugly one. Okay, the Royals open Thursday. This is one of my favorite stories. Mark, did you know they're bringing in a very, very special social media influencer on Thursday?
I did not know about this one.
This is the craziest story you're ever going to hear. We know him as Spencer B. That's all. We don't have a last name. His company is SB, that's his initials, SB Mowing in Wichita. He grew up pretty poor. He had bad test scores of 20, trying to go to college, couldn't get in anywhere, and didn't have any money anyway. Worked very hard to improve his test score to 32, got a full ride to K-State, got out of K-State, took a job with a company developing mobile apps, and started making videos of what he really likes to do, and that's go around to old or disabled people in the houses that you see kind of out in the country or whatever, where all the stuff's overgrown, cleans up all their shrubs, all their 4-foot-tall grass, all that stuff, and he started making videos. And his girlfriend said, you can do better than this. You need to condense these down to about 40 seconds. We'll do them in fast speed time. We'll take on all these jobs and do all this stuff. Spencer B. has 50 million followers and 3 billion views between YouTube and TikTok.
Wow. Did he quit his day job yet?
There can't be. There's a picture of him. He's got like 9 YouTube awards.
That's crazy.
For his category. And the Royals have invited him on opening day to take a couple laps on the mower and cut some grass.
That's cool.
How good is that? SB Mowing is the name of the company. I don't know how much he mows anymore, because if you got those kinds of numbers on YouTube and TikTok, he's got to be loaded. He's 25 years old.
He's got to keep mowing so he can keep those videos going.
Mowed his first lawn at age 11, 14 years later, because America's a great country, and thanks to TikTok and YouTube, that's what he's got. Unbelievable. And again, most of this is just outrageous projects you couldn't handle on your own. You couldn't do it. And he goes and helps people do these things, which is pretty cool. Vinny Pasquantino has a strained hamstring. What do we think about Thursday, Mark? Is he going to play?
I don't like that. I don't like Vinny getting an injury. It's happened a couple times now. And he could have been one of those guys that's up for an extension maybe this year. So he's got to get out there if he can. I mean, they don't want to make it worse either. So that's the tough part.
Just running to first base. Hopefully we'll hear more on that today. They Sent him to the doctors yesterday. It's a travel day. The Royals are in Texas for a couple of games on their way to Kansas City. So they'll play the Rangers tonight and then tomorrow afternoon, I believe, in Arlington. And we should learn more about Vinny Pasquantino, the three-hitter, the first baseman, whether or not his hamstring is going to be okay to start the season on Thursday. I don't think anybody really knows at this point. J.D. Vance has made a lot of news recently, but now it's going to be his wife. Usha Vance is visiting Greenland with her son. This Greenland thing is real. They just keep sending these envoys. Remember Don Jr. went?
Mm-hmm.
It was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Why Usha Vance? What am I missing here?
They just want to get as many fingers in there as possible.
Yeah.
I think. They just want to get their fingerprints on it.
Keep the flights coming. Keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
They had an election, and the Conservative Party won, and the Conservative Party is for breaking away from Denmark, but I don't think they've really decided yet whether they really want to do some sort of deal with the United States. But Trump's going to keep the full court press on, I believe.
Might want to be independent of us or for themselves.
I mean, doesn't Puerto Rico just gain by
Yeah.
being a territory? There's no downside, right?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Greenland could just be a territory. There's no downside.
Could be fun.
I mean, imagine the pitch from Trump. We're going to build resorts, have development. We'll have sport fishing in the summertime. We could put a couple of golf courses in there. The golf season's short, but it'll be fantastic. Maybe get a view of the fjords. Is that way up north in Greenland? The fjords? Who doesn't love that word? And they've got all those resources in national defense against Russia and China coming over the top of the earth at us. It's a pretty good deal. I'm all for it if they're for it. I do believe it is their right. And hopefully they want to be with us and not Denmark. I would think most people would make that move. Thanks for listening to Uncanceled. The Vince Show is up next on KCMO.